Everyone talks about love languages, like there's some sort of magic key to saving your relationship. But after years as a family lawyer, I've seen many couples who seemingly know what love languages are and know what their love language is, and yet they still end up getting divorced. So, are love languages a myth, or are people just not using them correctly? Let's talk about it. But first, if you're new here, welcome and thank you for joining me for another video. My name is Tanya and I'm a family lawyer and mediator, and on this channel I like to discuss all things relationship related, from dating to divorce. If that's something that you would be interested in seeing more of, please make sure you're subscribed, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think in the comments. So let's dive right in. What are love languages? Well, the concept of love languages was first introduced to us, as far as I'm aware, by someone named Gary Chapman in his book, The 5 Love Languages. And I will link that below in case you haven't heard about it, but most people by now have heard about this book and a lot of people have probably read it. So for those who aren't familiar, let's go through the 5 love languages that Gary Chapman sets out in his book. And those are acts of service, which are essentially performing tasks that are helpful for your partner. Words of affirmation, which are exactly what they sound like, compliments and verbally expressing admiration or appreciation. Quality time, which is spending undivided time and giving your partner your undivided attention. Gifts, which in this context are more about being thoughtful and meaningful rather than expensive or lavish. And finally, physical touch, which again is a fairly self-explanatory one, but it includes intimacy and also just physical affection in general. The entire premise behind the book is that most of us have one or two main love languages, and this is the way that we tend to express love and also the way that we will feel the most loved in a relationship. The benefits of this book and this concept is that it gave people a language to be able to express their needs in a relationship. Rather than saying, I don't feel loved or I don't feel appreciated, it actually gives a very specific framework for people to work within. To say, I need, let's say, acts of service in order to feel loved. Or I need my partner to tell me that they love me and to compliment me and to show me through their words that they appreciate me. Or I need my partner to buy gifts that are meaningful and thoughtful to express how they feel about me. In this way, couples could identify where perhaps the relationship was lacking and where they were feeling like they were unloved and unappreciated. But in my experience, just knowing the love languages is not enough, and that often people fall into certain traps when they're trying to apply this theory. So here are my two main problems with the concept of love languages as it is sort of set out in the book. And I'm not going to do a full deep dive into the book, but it's just the way that I have noticed it being applied in practice and what I see when relationships break down. So the first issue I have is that, in my opinion, a healthy relationship needs all 5 of those love languages to be spoken regularly by both partners. And the idea that we only really need 1 or 2 is probably misguided. And the truth is, that's not exactly what the book says either, but this is the way that people have interpreted it. The way I like to look at it, and the way that I will work with my clients on it, is that I will say that they should imagine that they have 5 cups of varying sizes, from smallest to biggest, and each of those cups represents a love language, and their partner would have the same. Now, in order for the relationship to work, both of them need to have their cups filled up regularly by their partner, and all 5 cups need to be filled up. It's just that some cups are bigger than others and so will require more filling. For example, you might be somebody whose main love language is quality time. And so that would be your biggest cup. And maybe after that, it's acts of service. And maybe you're not somebody who really needs gifts. So that would be your smallest cup. But does that mean that you would be okay with your partner not buying you a gift on your birthday or for any other holiday where gifts would be expected? Does that mean that you're okay if your partner just shoves $20 in a card that he picked up on the way home? Probably not. Most of us appreciate our loved ones putting in at least a little bit of thought and effort into getting us a gift, even if we don't want gifts all the time. It shows that that person thinks of you and is considerate enough to spend the time to do something that they think you will like. And so even if something is your smallest cup, it doesn't mean that it should be ignored. And this is the mistake that people make, first of all, when they are trying to apply the love languages. They are focusing all of their attention on one or two love languages and letting the others fall to the wayside. And building on that, the other thing that I think the book fails to recognize is that our love languages will change over time because our priorities change. And as our relationship grows and as our life circumstances change, our love languages and what we need in a relationship will shift and change as well. And the biggest catalyst for this is often children. And what I see play out most often in particularly heterosexual couples is that women start to value acts of service far greater when they have children than they did when they were young and single. Now, this isn't universal, but usually that cup tends to get bigger because they themselves feel the burden of having to care for children, which disproportionately tends to fall on their shoulders. And so they start looking to their partner for more support in that area. And that is one way where too often men will drop the ball. They view their wife asking them to help around the house as a burden rather than recognizing that now the love languages have shifted because now the relationship dynamics have changed. And instead of coming from a place where they want to fill up their partner's cup by taking burdens off of their shoulder, they view it as their partner just nagging them, being difficult, or asking too much. And that happens, I'm sure, with everybody. Men as well, their love languages can change and their priorities can change. And so when they were young and they had lots of free time, maybe they did want more quality time. But as they've perhaps progressed in their career and at times when they're very busy with work, they might not need as much quality time. They might prefer other ways of expressing their love and their affection. So having this idea that, you have this fixed love language and that is how you need to express love can lead people into trouble because they're not willing to adjust and change as their relationship progresses and as their circumstances change. And the second way that I see love languages being used, let's say, incorrectly or not in the best, most effective way, is when people weaponize love languages against their partner. This usually looks like, for example, somebody saying, my love language just isn't gifts. I just don't do gifts. That's why I didn't buy a gift, or that's why I gave you a gift voucher. Instead of recognizing that love languages are less about what you want to receive and more about how your partner needs to feel loved, people who are too selfish or too self-focused will look only at their love languages and then expect that their partner should just speak the same language that they do, or appreciate that when they're washing the car, that means that they love you. Instead of recognizing that each of us have our own way of interpreting love and that your job as a partner is, as I said before, to fill up your partner's cup. So you need to fill up the other person's cup in the way that they need their cups to be filled up, not in the way that you yourself would like to fill them up, or the way that you've decided that is how you're going to express love. And so coming at it from that perspective is what I call weaponizing love languages, by saying, oh, well, I just need physical touch to feel loved, and therefore you have to give me the intimacy that I want in order for me to be happy, rather than asking your partner what they need to be happy in order for them to then give you the love that you are seeking. Because a person will not be able to pour from an empty cup. So if you yourself have not filled up your partner's cups, you're not going to be getting that in return. As an example, I remember working with a couple who were having a difficult time connecting in terms of what it is that they needed in the relationship. They had at that point a couple of kids, and the wife kept saying that she wanted the husband to spend more time with the family. And the husband would get mad because he felt like he was doing that and it was never good enough for her. When I got into the details of what we were talking about, it turned out that what the wife was seeking was quality time, so that the husband would spend time with her and the children doing games or activities or going out on outings. And what the husband had interpreted was that he rearranged his work schedule to be able to go pick the kids up from school and take them to their extracurricular activities. So he was coming at it from an acts of service perspective, instead of recognizing that what his wife needed was quality time. But he refused to recognize that, and instead got angry with her because he felt like she was demanding too much from him and that everything he did was not good enough, because no matter how many times he packed the kids' lunch boxes or took them to sports or went to the parent-teacher meeting, he wasn't really meeting his wife's actual need, which was quality time, spending time together as a family. And that's where you can fall into the trap of not approaching love languages in the best, most effective way. Because while quality time maybe wasn't his love language, it was hers, and he needed to recognize that if he wanted to make the relationship work, he needed to meet her where she was and speak her language, and not only expect her to speak his language. And by the way, in that situation, yes, the wife did make a lot of effort in terms of her acts of service in the relationship when it came to filling up her husband's cup in a way that he needed to feel loved, and even he recognized that. And in the end, I think they managed to find a way to work through that, but it took that effort and that recognition. He was doing was actually not filling up the correct cup. And in the end, it was a lot easier because he didn't need to make so much time to spend the quality time with his family. He didn't need to be leaving work early and doing all these things. What he actually needed to do was to relax a little. And it made both of their lives easier and happier. So that's my take on the 5 love languages. I think that they can be an effective tool if used correctly and if you approach it from a giving place and not just a receiving place. But you guys let me know what you think. Have you read the book? Did you find that it's ever helped you in your relationship? Have you worked with a therapist who dealt with love languages before? Did it work for you? I always love to hear from you, so please let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you want to work with me, I do offer one-on-one consultations. I'll leave those details below so that you can reach me. And as always, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.